You know, there's many reasons why Roderick is the best character, but I think the number one reason for me is that he never misses an opportunity to compliment Farnese. What a boss. Berserk Chapter 380 is here. We're going to get into it. I do want to apologize right off the bat that I am a little bit under the weather, so my voice is probably not going to sound the best, so I apologize for that. But anyways, let's get into it. The battle rages on between the Kushan village and the trolls that have appeared here. We have all of our characters joining in with the fight, and Farnese is the ace in the hole here. She has now perfected the ability to create the energy shield from the astral world without any help from Shurikei whatsoever, although it does show the other mages chipping in their efforts. So it's good that everybody is contributing in their own way. And this also boosts the morale of the Kushan, who are of course very grateful to have such powerful allies on their side. Which that's what it's going to lead to. Eventually we are going to have our giant final battle of the series, and we're going to have the Kushan army accompanied by Guts' group. We're going to have our team of magic users. We're going to have our hand-to-hand combat users. We're going to have our healers. We're going to have all of this stuff all together going up against Griffith's army. Now, I would say at this point, Griffith's army is still way more powerful than anything that our heroes have, but we're starting to even the scale at least a little bit. But the one thing we probably really need is Guts, and that's the biggest issue with this chapter, is that Rakshas, after fleeing his fight with Salat, is drawn to Guts because of his brand that we saw in the last couple of chapters. Guts' brand has been bleeding, Rakshas sensed him, has been going towards him, and we get a very powerful and depressing moment with Guts, with Rakshas arriving. First of all, the artwork of Rakshas chopping up the bars of the jail cell and then just looking like some kind of angel of death, which is exactly what Guts calls him. I was a little curious at first with this panel that says, "There you are at last." I didn't know if that was Guts speaking or Rakshas speaking, but then there's the other panel where we see Guts' eye, and he says, "My angel of death." And then immediately after, where Rakshas is closing in, Guts closes his eyes and leans forward. And this is heartbreaking. This is a moment where Guts is, for probably the first time in the entire manga, accepting death in one way, shape, or form. Now, I'm sure a lot of fans are not going to like this, and they want Guts to get angry and rage out, and those moments are always great, but I think it's important to remember the context of where we are in the story right now. The only thing that was keeping Guts alive, really, after the eclipse was first his pursuit of vengeance, and then after realizing how much that was destroying him from the inside out, growing the power of his Beast of Darkness, and also being so far away from Casca that he wasn't paying attention enough to her, to the point where she almost got sacrificed, burned at the stake. He realized that Casca was the most important person in his life. She was the flame that kept away his darkness. She was his reason for living, to go on, to grow, to heal, and to make a better life for her. We spent nearly 20 volumes of manga with Guts trying to get Casca to Elfhelm to heal her. And then as soon as he accomplished that goal, Casca was taken away. His whole reason for living, and for all he knows, Griffith did God knows what to her already, and she's probably already dead. Guts feels like he has lost everything. And yes, he still has his group of friends. He still has Farnese and Serpico and Isidro and all those characters, but Casca was his light. And if he assumes that she's gone for good, then he is broken beyond anything that he's felt before. You know, at a certain point, there's no rage left in you. You can only be angry for so long, to the point where you shift into this melancholy where you just don't care. And that's where he is. And it's frustrating to everybody around him because we know the potential of Guts, and we also know that for us as readers and for many characters in the story itself, he is this beacon of survival. He is this conduit point of never giving up and continuing to persevere and fighting against the worst odds possible and overcoming the darkest points that life has to offer. That's one of the reasons why we love Guts so much, but I also think that's why it's important to have the character reach his breaking point. And it's going to make the catharsis of Guts grabbing his sword once again later in the manga all that more fulfilling. We have to go through this depression period. Now, I do have negatives about this chapter that I'll get into in a moment, but let's just go in order here. So the next thing that we see is Salat hitting Rakshas from the back. Maybe I should rephrase that. Salat stabs Rakshas in the throat. Okay, so I have a couple of things about this. All right, first of all, I don't necessarily think that Rakshas is dead here, because if a rocket launcher didn't kill him, I don't really see how this does. I know he can move his body parts throughout his shadowy self. He's kind of like Elder Togoro from Yu Yu Hakusho. And I've always wanted Salat to kill Rakshas. I think Salat deserves the kill. I think because they both have that Bakiraka Kushan background, and also because Salat has proved himself more and more throughout the course of the manga, he deserves his own kill without the assistance of anybody else. But I do think this would be way too easy for Rakshas to go out, and considering the fact that he regenerated himself or was regenerated by some outside source we still don't really know from being blown up, I don't think that this would be enough. There's also the ominous shot of his mask just kind of sitting in the shadow there, which would, to me, assume that he is still alive or that he is going to regenerate again. But if this is how he dies, I have extremely mixed feelings on it. I'm happy that it was by Salat because that's what I wanted, but the way that it happened, I'm just not on board with. There's also a couple of other important things here, I feel like. One is Salat, of course, grabbing Guts and said, "Why didn't you do anything?" He is literally chained up to the wall and doesn't have any weapons or another hand, so kind of a silly question. But I think that it's also maybe a little bit of a catharsis for how the audience feels at the moment. Like, Guts, come on, get on your feet. You can do this, And I think Guts needs to realize he has that support system. I think when he realizes how many people look up to him and how many people need him, that's going to help him thrive and being able to stand up once again. But Salat saying this in this moment is kind of silly because what do you literally, even if Guts didn't bow his head to that point where he's willing to die, what do you expect him to do? Just kick Rakshas? Like, I don't get it. The other weird thing is how desperately Daiba is trying to get Salat away from Guts. And I don't know if he's trying to get him away from Guts or if he's trying to get him away from Rakshas. I don't know if he's assuming Rakshas is going to regenerate once again, or if he's assuming that Guts is so dangerous because of where his potential mental state is at, he might just be delirious and lash out in a Beast of Darkness kind of way. It's not really explained, so I'm a little bit confused about why Daiba is just so erratic. He's very much like, yo, do not go in there at all. Anyways, after that, there is some nice moments. We get to see Erika again, which has been a long time since we've seen her. I think she popped up in the last chapter or two briefly. Somebody mentioned it, but I didn't catch it the first read-through. But it's cool to see her with Ricker again. Know that they're still fighting through this together. And the finale of the chapter shows us what's up with Shirake. Now, for quite some time, we assumed that Shirake was lost within the astral realm, that she went in too far. She wasn't able to enter Guts' consciousness, and she just became lost in this catatonic state. But the truth is, she's been traveling. She's been traveling through, I am assuming, the paths of the world tree, which if that branches the physical and astral worlds together, I guess I can assume in a fantasy sort of setting that it would work if you were just in the astral realm. You could just travel the beams. I don't really know how it works. But anyways, she's made it to Falconia. And she is on the pursuit of Casca. And I really like this reveal for a couple of reasons. Number one is that, what does Shirake do when she realizes she can't help Guts? If she can't go inside of his mind and help him the way that she used to? Well, what's the next best thing to help Guts? Obviously, find Casca. So very smart for Shirake to do. Also, Shirake going to Falconia, this leads to my theory and suspicion that Shirake will once again meet up with Sonia, because both of them have this kind of clairvoyance, and I believe, and I've said this for a while, that Sonia will betray Griffith. And I know right now she's the biggest Griffith fangirl, But she's also friends with Shirake. She's curious about Casca. And if she was able to see the events of the eclipse for herself firsthand, maybe going into Casca's mind or whatever they do with that, I really do think that Sonya is a big potential player in switching sides and being part of Guts' team, or maybe even being their sort of informant on the inside, you know what I mean? So I like this idea. So basically with this chapter, I'm a little bit mixed on it, but I like the ideas. You know, I like what's happening with Guts. I like the idea of Salat killing Rakshas. I just don't like how it happened. And I like the idea of Shirake traveling to Falconia. But there's two big things here that I don't like. Number one is that when Rakshas reformed, he didn't know why he was there, and we still don't have an explanation for that. Did somebody send Rakshas there? Was he on a mission? Did he somehow regenerate? How did he get there? And the second thing is, a couple of chapters ago, there was this big moment where Daiba sensed all of these creatures coming up from Klipoth, saying that there's no way an apostle could bring all these creatures here, which, given what we know about the story so far, that's true. And I know that we like to get our hopes up for seeing big events happen, like, wouldn't it be so cool to see a God Hand again? And it's not like I need to see a God Hand for the story to be good or anything, but when you leave all of these clues, like Klipoth and its connection to Slan, and the idea that the Hawk of Light is probably on his way here, and there still isn't an explanation as to what was going on. Did Rakshas being there have anything to do with Griffith? Or was it another God Hand? Or just why was he there? Why did any of this happen? Somebody had to have done it. So I can't imagine the battle is over with. And if it is, then that'll be a definite problem that I have with the series, because that wouldn't make any sense. But also, I don't like to come to conclusions without getting full context, and it is ongoing, so I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and wait for an explanation or hopefully a continuation to the battle. Anyway, overall, I like the chapter. I have a couple of questions that are burning within me, but I guess that's just part of being a Berserk fan, is that there's always questions, and every time we get a question answered, there's about 70 other questions that pop up. So that's just the name of the game. Anyways, guys, if you like this chapter or didn't like it, let me know down below in the comments as to why. Leave all your thoughts, theories, opinions about what's going to happen moving forward. Also, guys, I'd really appreciate it if you did like the video. Honestly, my YouTube channel is not doing too well right now. The last couple months have been pretty difficult. So if you guys want to help support, I also have a Patreon and channel memberships linked down below. As well, I do a lot of variety of content on this channel. So if you're only here for Berserk videos, maybe go ahead, scroll through, check out some other videos. You might find some other things that you like. But beyond that, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.